The Lorax, a classic story originally written by well-known 20th century author Dr. Seuss, centers around the life of a man who follows his capitalist dreams, but underneath contains much darker political commentary on topics such as environmentalism and anti-consumerism. Because both the plot and topics it discusses have remained relevant throughout the years, many adaptations of this story have been created since its publication in 1971, including a made-for-television special the following year and a musical version in 2015. The most widely known adaptation, however, is the 2012 animated feature film of the same name, created by Universal Studios and Illumination Entertainment. The film takes the original tale and updates it with songs, characters, and imagery in order to make Seuss's beliefs more impactful to modern audiences and transform the book into a memorable film commenting on climate change and the contributions big corporations make to environmental destruction, all while assuming the role in pop culture of a typical animated family movie. The Lorax, both the book and the film, exemplify much of Seuss's ideology about the importance of educating children on critical issues. In 1960, Seuss wrote that children's reading and children's thinking are the rock-bottom base upon which this country will rise, or not rise. Throughout his lifetime, especially during and after World War II, Seuss worked on many books and cartoons for both children and adults, with the intention of spreading his views on topics of economy and ecology to as many Americans as possible. Seuss used his post-war literature to nurture his idea that children are the deciding factor for the success or destruction of the future. A main concern that Seuss hoped to express through his book The Lorax is the connection between climate change and corporate greed. His concern for the environment and the impact humans have on it is vividly depicted throughout the story. Environmentalist and anti-capitalist views such as Seuss's have become more prominent in recent years. Environmentalism was a main concern of Seuss's even before all of today's scientific evidence supporting the existence of climate change and the effect that mass capitalist production has on the environment. But in the years since publication, the issue has gotten worse, and the environment has steadily decreased, thus creating the need for a modern adaptation to bring these issues back into the public eye. While the 2012 film adaptation is based on the original book, there are some key differences that were made in its creation in order to update it for more modern audiences and make this environmental and capitalist caution tale more impactful. One such change is the use of catchy music accompanied by vivid animations throughout the film. The main purpose of these musical numbers is to punctuate many key messages and plot points in the movie and to make them more memorable to the audience through song. Another important change to the film is the addition of multiple characters to the story. The original book centered around a character known as the Onceler, telling the story of how he built up his company, resulting in the complete destruction of the environment it was based in. The film, however, while containing the Onceler's story, is also heavily focused on a boy named Ted, who lives in a seemingly utopian capitalist society known as Thneedville that arose from the destroyed environment. The addition of this young character, whose main driving factor in the film is trying to find a tree to impress a girl, was done by the filmmakers in order to make the film more marketable and relatable, to draw more outside attention to the film. An important character that was not added, but changed, is the Onceler himself. In the book, the Onceler is depicted as a monster-like creature. The only part the reader ever sees of him are his green arms and his yellow eyes. In the film, however, during the flashbacks when the Onceler is telling his story, he is depicted as a young man. The film's executive producer, Chris Melandry, argues for this change because the minute you make the Onceler a monster, you allow the audience to interpret that the problem is caused by somebody who is different from me, and it ceases to be a story that is about all of us. Then it's a story about, oh, I see the person who led us into the predicament is not a person. It's somebody very, very different, and so it takes you off the hook. This change is vital to the message of the movie because it forces the audience to consider their own impact and realize that these events are entirely created by humans like them. Despite the many differences between the book and the film, one key message is depicted the exact same way in both. In both the film and the book, the Lorax writes "unless" on a rock outside the Onceler's house. The Onceler realizes, after explaining his story, that it is because unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. This quote is consistent between the book and the film because it represents one of Seuss's core beliefs about the education of children. The Lorax, although marketed towards children, contains many important messages on environmentalism and capitalism that can be relevant to all generations. Merely weeks before his death in 1991, when asked what message he would leave behind for children, Seuss said that whenever things go a bit sour in the job I'm doing, I always tell myself, you can do better than this. The best slogan I can think of to leave with the kids of the USA would be, we can, and we've got to, do better than this. The Lorax was originally written as a call to action for environmental change, and the film adaptation effectively serves this same purpose to today's audiences.